Are you currently dating someone? Yes, but they live in another nation. Which nation? My imagination.
Welcome back. My name is Jay Rothman. I am the host of the show. I'd like to take a moment here to introduce my co-host. We have Jeff Fasano coming in from Nashville, Tennessee, the man of the land from down under. He calls Australia home. His name is Evis Love Heath. And of course, we have Mr. Josh Richer holding up the state of California, coming in from Southern California. Welcome to the show tonight, gentlemen.
She's a hot topic, brothers. What do you reckon?
Right.
So tonight we're going to be hitting up episode number 88. And tonight's show is all about, are you okay with not being in a committed relationship in the prime of your life? And so this evening, gentlemen, I think this is going to be quite the show because 3 out of 4 of you gentlemen are, in fact, in a non-committed relationship right now, meaning right now you're single. From my, as late as last evening, you were single, in fact. But before we get into tonight's topic, I do want to take a moment here to welcome all of our viewers coming in from across the globe. We are coming in from Your Health Network on Roku TV and Amazon Fire TV channel, live streaming. We also are coming in from Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Viewers, we thank you for joining us this evening. If you are following us on social media, you have access to drop comments down, and we welcome your comments. If you have any questions for us, we'll do our best to acknowledge as many of those questions as possible. And at the same time, I want to invite you to share some of your own experiences, viewers and listeners, as you join us this evening. Are you okay with not being in a committed relationship in the prime of your life? And so, gentlemen, Ev, I want to invite you to kick us off this evening, warm us up, and get us hot
Right.
on this topic. Are you okay with not being in a committed relationship in this time of your life?
Man, I thought you were going to start with me, Jay. Thank you so much.
You know what?
Big...
You can.
There you go, Jeff. There you go, Jeff.
Be careful of what you wish for, Jeff.
Drop us in, brother. Drop us in.
Oh, my God. You know, I'm going to go right back to our production meeting. Actually, we were sitting around before we really started talking about the show and what we wanted to do. And Josh and I were just talking about our love life, our dating life, our whatever life. And we both looked at each other and go, and what Josh just did, we went, I don't get it.
I don't get it.
I don't get it. And it was, then it just grew from there to talk about being single, being okay with being single, being okay with being alone. Really, what is going on out there, why it might be challenging or difficult for a lot of us to meet someone on a heart basis, on a soul basis, meet someone who is living a similar life as we're living. And we had a lot of laughs about it. We're still laughing about it, but it's a big question, even for me. I mean, it is challenging to meet someone on that heart to heart or that soul to soul basis, where there is a connection. So we started talking about the connection from our heart space and leaving out all of the periphery stuff around us. And we really came to the conclusion that the most important part in all of this is the connection, whatever that may be. And that's my take on it right now. I think I'm going to pass this to Josh.
Passing the bat here, my brothers.
I don't get it.
What's going on, brother? What's going on over there on the other side of the pond?
My late 30s was like doing work on myself, figuring this all out, my awakening, my downfall to my rise, all of that. And then I emerged from that here in the last couple years to a pandemic where we can't meet people in the traditional way. And especially what we also talked about too was that as you grow spiritually and as a human and become aware of deeper levels and things, it seems that your sort of pool of people starts to get a lot smaller. And it's all online now. And so this, yeah, I'm sitting right there in the same seat as all of you right now because I don't know how to navigate this. This is new to me as well. So I'm just gonna bust out my notepad and Ev, take it away, man, because you guys have something figured out that I don't.
One of the things in our production meeting that Josh and I talked about was that we were actually going to be viewers tonight.
Yes.
Well, we should talk about this then, my brothers. We should talk about this then.
What do you got, Ev?
I think as we come out and we keep shifting and we keep transitioning into this new earth more and more, we're starting to realize that not only, on how we perceive ourselves within the relationship that we're having with ourselves, but more so how we are starting to lead from the heart as opposed to the pain within a lot of our relationships. And what I mean by that, as we've talked about in previous shows, so many of us in relationships, we're carrying so much suffering and pain. So we identify just the connection of maybe even going on a date unconsciously connected with our pain and suffering. We may not even realize that we're still wearing the mask of the ego to protect us from some of these connections to go on a date. So my thing is, as we're going into tonight's show, I want to ask you, my brothers and sisters, are you conscious dating or you're just dating based on the old systems, based on the old paradigm, which was ego-centered and ego-centered from that standpoint? For me, I've been 4 years as the word single, you might call it. But in that time, I've learned so much. I've learned so many beautiful lessons. I've learned that I'm okay alone if that's where the divine wants me to be at in this space. I've learned the lessons of rejection and abandonment that I had to heal from the inner child. And I've learned authenticity. I think as we go into these new, more conscious forms of dating, like you're saying there, Brother Josh, that the field may come down closer to a point as opposed to a more spring of ocean, as we've sort of said into the notes, because we are truly aligning to a frequency that is really new on this planet. It's an old frequency, but it is pretty new for a lot of people to understand what we're talking about here. So as we start to identify some of those things that we needed to heal from in our past, we need to trust, we need to surrender that we are divinely being looked after and guided towards the connection that we will attract. We do not have to go out looking for anything, my brothers and sisters. If you're still looking, you're going to go down the track of looking for your own wounds. My thing is, while I've been able to heal some of those wounds of rejection and abandonment within my life and bringing that more authentic side of myself out, I know if I trust in that divine source, co-creator, whatever you want to call it, that I am guided to that connection eventually. Now, I've also learned patience in that time. I'm not seeking anything. I'm in an accepting space where I currently am on my vibration, and I know that I'll be aligned to that other frequency sooner or later.
Beautiful.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
I was going to say that's the tough part though, right, Ev? Therein lies the rub. It's trusting in the universe, that knowing that we are on its way to it and they are on their way to us. but also we have to put ourselves in opportunity's way. We can't just sit at home expecting that one day my Amazon delivery woman is going to be this hot lady in cutoff shorts, and I'm going to go, wow, hey. So where is that balance? We're not seeking, we're trusting, but we are putting ourselves in the world to be discovered. And Ev, instead of calling it single, I think tonight we'll call it eligible bachelor.
I want to take a moment here.
I actually don't call it single at all, brother,
Well,
because I've done so much of that healing journey that I've just
Yeah.
mentioned. I actually call it complete, and I know
Love
that the connection that comes in will only complement my completeness.
or how about unattached and available?
Mhm.
There you go. There you go.
You know, something that struck me in our meeting this week, Josh, what really hit me hard was when you shared that right now your work that you're doing is from home. You're in this in the meantime, you're not on set. You're actually working on a pretty massive project from home.
Right there.
And what you disclosed to us in the meeting, which was so beautiful, was that you said truth. Truth is that
I'm lonely.
I'm lonely.
Yeah.
And I felt that. I understood that in that moment.
Mm.
Thanks, Jay.
And that's what, after listening to you and Jeff go at it for banter back and forth, I was like, looks like we don't have to discuss a topic for tonight. We have it.
We should have recorded that.
And well, hold on, guys. I'm going to bring it up right now. And at the same time, I am aware that many of our viewers that tune in every week are single as well. They either have not been married, they're, or they're divorced, and many of them are on some level of self-discovery, healing, a journey of sorts, if we may, a non-psychedelic journey, perhaps, but a journey. And it's interesting how we vacillate between trust and lack of patience. And so I wonder, when in that moment we're feeling lonely, Josh, which part of you is feeling lonely? Is it your younger self? Is it your ego? Or is it your higher self?
Yeah, sure. It's probably the younger self and a little ping ponging back and forth between the ego. Sure.
Well, ego's got little Josh's answers, which is, well, let's just go on a dating site. Maybe.
Yep. It's but I feel all of you out there too in this in the time of the pandemic and work from home and the and or the great resignation, where we're all slogging it out on our home computers and not at our normal day jobs. I feel you too, man. Like, this is the first time in 20 years that I've sat in one place and never had anybody around for weeks or months. And yeah, that at first I was super stoked on it, because I'm like, oh, I get to work out, I can run errands in the middle of the day, do all these things, but it gets lonely.
So if I may paraphrase you, Josh, what I think I just heard you say is that it's even if you're not dating, it's about connecting with people. It doesn't have to be a woman. It's just engaging in conversations. It's connecting with people at the heart space, maybe a little bit more depth to the conversation. That you're working to a large extent in isolation right now, which is very common.
Yeah.
So I guess, Ev, I want to invite you to jump in. How do we navigate through being that you're single, you're not in a committed relationship? Any tips and tools for the millions of people, including Josh and Jeff, that tend to spend a lot of time working from home right now and miss that interaction, that depth of connection with others.
Mm. I'd be really, I went on a beautiful walk with a brother this morning. That's having a couple of relationship things as well. And I asked him the question, I'd really be asking your question to yourself, defining your values on what it is to date, on what it is to have love within your life. Because really at the deepest part of what we're talking about is here, I guess all of us just want to feel a bit of love, don't we? So if we can really go back to the energy blueprint, go back to the drawing board and ask what our values are in seeking or attracting or embracing that other divine connection, what are those values of that particular energy look like? What do they feel like? Where are they? What is the environment I'm in? See, because we're really going into this new era of really trying to attract this more divine source, we're also starting to see a play of the divine feminine and the sacred masculine come together. So we've got to ask ourselves, even though we're in the masculine suit, have we done our inner work? Like, have we really done the inner work? Have we done the self-mastery to never feel alone again? Then we can start creating from that blueprint something that we may want to attract within our lives. And some beautiful things that I've been able to share with clients is simply go and date yourself.
Mm-hmm.
What's a date with yourself look like? Man,
Well, Josh already answered that, Ev. He did
Yeah,
that.
Boogieing down
that
on
New
New
Year's
Year's
Eve.
by yourself.
There you go.
I actually dated myself on New Year's Eve as well. I took myself to see The Matrix.
Nice.
You know? So we've got to ask ourselves, have we really done the inner work to really attract that particular frequency within our lives? Because my brothers and sisters, you may have done your inner work, you may have done the self-mastery, but did you ever consider that other connection that you now want to attract within your life, that divine connection? Have they done their inner work? See, that divine, that co-creator, God, whatever you want to call it, might have someone already in store for you, but they may be just getting worked on at this point in time as well.
Beautiful. Jay, your story is kind of like that, right?
I don't know. You tell me. Which story
Didn't
are you
you-
referring to?
Didn't you and Mary live close to each other? A decade before you met?
Yeah. We lived, if you know anything about Southern California, which you do, it's a lot of cities. And we actually lived in 2 cities simultaneously. In the last city we lived in, we were 2 blocks from each other on the same block section. 2 of our children went to the same high school. They never met. Thankfully, Mary and I never met when I was married. We frequented the same restaurants, the same grocery stores, all the same plazas, but we never physically met. Now that, I think you're insinuating, Josh, my story is aligning with what Ev has just shared,
Sure.
is that neither one of us were ready. If we had met earlier, it wouldn't have gone so well, I don't believe. The fact that when we met, to me, it was very divine. It was right on time. And that's where trusting comes in. Now, it's easy for me to say. I'm not in your shoes today. And Jeff, you've been awfully quiet. You've been absorbing all this, but what are you thinking? Because I see some smoke rising, and hopefully it's coming from within.
There's a lot of jokes, actually.
You got a good Seinfeld one?
No.
Make me laugh, brother. Make me laugh.
No, I'm thinking about what Ev said, and the thing that I'm thinking about mostly is a couple of things. Actually, I'm going to throw them out because this is how we got to this topic. Was first of all, what's really important is for us as Ev said, to look at ourselves first. So it's about taking stock into where we are within ourselves, what our lives look like. What am I doing in my life? Where am I in my life? What's happening in my life? And then really look at that and ask yourself, am I fulfilled with that to a point? Is what I'm doing in my life bringing me joy and all of that good stuff? Because I'm working on myself. I'm doing the inner work. I'm on the path to self-mastery. I'm have this wonderful career. I'm doing all of this stuff. And when we look in the mirror, that's really who we want. We want a mirror of ourselves in a certain way. And because, as Ev said, all of our relationships, whether it's romantic or friendships or even with our jobs, whatever, are simply going to be a reflection for the relationship we're having with ourselves. So that's the most important thing to do, is to look at our lives, look at ourselves, look at how far we've come, how far we've grown spiritually within ourselves. And then we're really looking for a mirror of that, the relationship we're having with ourselves. But then it's also important to write down what we want, what we really, really, truly want. It's not about walking an arbitrary life. Oh, I would love to have a relationship with someone. But what does that look like? What is that? So you begin with looking at ourselves, and then we say, what is really important to us? What do we really and truly want in our life? Because we have to direct the universe. That's our part. Our part is directing the universe, telling the universe, this is who I am. This is where I've come from. This is where I am in my life. I'm somewhat fulfilled with my life. There's a lot of joy in my life. What I'm doing and what I'm bringing to the world is important. What is important to me? I define what is important to me. And then you say, well, is that what I want? And then we're directing the universe. That's all well and good, but how we got to this topic was a friend of mine asked me once, because I would always say, I would love to really, really have that connection that you have, that Jay and Mary have. I really, really, truly want that. And he said, that's all well and good, but are you okay if that never happens in your life? Will you okay with that just may not be in your soul plan? And that was a tough one. And I still haven't really come to grips or answered that. And then he said, ponder that, but then stay open. Stay open to all possibilities. But I think when we come to that place, am I okay? Then what we do is we then will release the stranglehold that we have on, I need a relationship. I really, really want this, because that's how we clog the energy. That's how we clog the energy within us.
You bring up a very great point, Jeff, that we have to let it go. Like, getting focused for sure is one, but you have to let go, because our discomfort comes from when our expectations don't meet our reality of where our life is currently. That's when we feel bad about our lives, or start, judging our lives, or those type of things. I mean, I went through that in my late 30s when I thought I should have had the house and the 2.5 kids and the white picket fence and the dog named Benji. And I thought I should have all of that by then, and I didn't. And then I created a story around that I was a failure. I was a failure in life, and that I couldn't. But it was that such strong, just sort of, expectation that I should have that by then. So yeah, Jeff, to your point, we for sure need to get focused, but we also have to let go that it may not happen, and that's okay too.
It's like Ev said, the expectations.
Yeah.
The expectations. Josh, I used to feel that loneliness, that lonely feeling. I don't anymore. I used to really feel that. but I went into it. I was like, what is it? And I don't feel lonely anymore. I'm getting to that place where, you know what? This is where I am in my life. I know what I would like. I know what would be fantastic. If that happens, great. But you know what? I have so many other fulfilling relationships in my life as well. And I'm out so much that I have so much contact and with so many different people at so many different times. But I'm kind of getting to that place where, am I okay that it might not be in my soul plan? That's a big, that's something that I feel that's pretty big.
Well, Jeff, in a meeting, you actually said, "Hey guys, here's my truth. I'm on the final nine." Is that how you refer to it?
I'm on the back nine.
The back nine. That's the golf term. The back nine. So if I may challenge you in this moment, how I interpreted that was what you were saying was that I'm running out of time here, guys.
Feeling the clock.
And really, is that any different than a woman who is 28 or 32 or 34 and isn't married yet and feels the pressure closing in on her because of either society, church, or home beliefs that she's been living in, that she's got that biological clock ticking. So there really is no difference between a 32-year-old woman who hasn't found the one and you who's in his mid-60s feeling the same way.
I'm not in my mid-60s yet, Jay.
I said in your 60s.
I'm not in the mid-60s yet.
Okay. All right. Well, we could do a show on that maybe next week. What is I guess really what it comes down to is, and I know that whenever we create a narrative around time, that creates an unnecessary pressure, combustible pressure. And the more pressure we feel, many of us don't perform as well. Now, I say perform, that's probably not the right word, but perhaps it is. I don't know. When I say perform, I mean showing up. Showing up is for what we do here as our authentic self.
Yeah.
Ev, what do you make of this? Tell me how you embrace time in your life. Of course, you and Josh are closer in age and Jeff and I are closer in age. So we have the high and the lower, and we are all learning how to manage time. How do you manage time in your relationship with that biological clock that's going?
By looking after myself. That's number one. Self-care. We say it show after show. Really having that picture and that little plan, that little blueprint of what that looks like for you. Otherwise, we just keep getting caught in the prison of the mind. So making it very clear and coming from a clear space, like I said at the start, what some of those values are for your own life. When we take good care of ourselves, putting in the right foods, putting in the right waters, we say it show after show, but we need to keep repeating these, my brothers and sisters, because you've got to think, if you're able to look after those fragments or those parts of yourself, you will naturally attract those parts of yourself with that other beloved. You see, when I started to think a little bit more about this show and really think about the masculine side of this, from a culturalist standpoint, I find within our community here in the land down under, it's very tricky, as many men don't even have rites of passage anymore. So when we go back to the day we had rites of passage in cultures, we were groomed into that particular masculine. But what were our rites of passage growing up in many of our lives? It was going out and getting laid for the first time. It was going out and doing something or whatever it may have been within your life.
Getting drunk. How about getting drunk?
Getting drunk.
And then getting laid.
There you go. All of those things above. And the other thing goes for the divine feminine as well. So we literally are attracting what we are, my brothers and sisters. You cannot go wrong coming back to self and making sure that you've looked after number one first.
Mm-hmm.
I do have a caveat though to Jay what I said was I'm on the back nine. And then after I said that, I went, but I do have a friend who at 70 years old met the woman.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in a
Mm-hmm.
fairly well-known band back in the 70s called Aztec Two-Step. And they got married and he was 71 years old. And he met somebody. So that was what I said after that. So I went, that's cool. You know, that it's
Yep.
I saw that and I went, wow, he's my hero.
And we keep saying it show after show, and it's really important to me in my life because it made such a massive difference, both negatively and positively. Is we're the author of the book. We've got the pen. We can change the story, and catching ourselves in those moments when we are creating a poor me moment. I've been doing that lately, and I've been consciously changing the channel because I'm the author, and I sure as hell I'm not going to go out into the world feeling great about myself and attracting an equal if I'm going out there with a poor me story. So it's really important to catch that in the moment and change the channel. And at least it has been for me. And to say, like on New Year's, I almost left to say, screw it. I'm just going to dance because that's what I wanted to do. I don't need anybody else to do that. And I did and had a great time. So yeah, but I think, circling back around to patience.
Josh,
Working on patience.
Josh, I also want to piggyback and really acknowledge that how many times when we are putting on a full court press, using a basketball term, Jeff. I know you're a hockey fan, more so than basketball, but full court press. When we're pressing for a relationship, how many times have we settled?
Yep.
And
yep. Every time.
at this point in our life, are we willing to compromise our own moral integrity? Are we willing to compromise our own emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual well-being?
Yep.
And that's the question, is not just for the three of you guys, it's for all of us, for all of our viewers.
Mm-hmm.
How many times have we ended up in relationships and we stayed in them even when there is some level of abuse, emotional, mental, physical, sexual, or even spiritual abuse in the home, because we'd rather stay in that than be alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's not uncommon. So how do we break the cycle to that? I'm putting it out there. What do we do differently to make sure that we're still vetting a potential partner, that we're still asking the key questions when we go on a date? And then we pay attention to the answer. We're not just looking and gazing at someone physically, but we're really paying attention to what they're saying. And are their words aligned with their body language?
I'd be really identifying any hurt or pain within your life that you've connected with relationships first, brothers and sisters. Really going to the full story. Part of the Rainbow Serpent Dream that I released in 2021, I talked about this in the sacred waters or the sacral space, which deals with relationships. Ask the question to yourself, get observant, get some self-awareness, and write down your experience with all of your sexual partners. Not who you were with so much, but why you were with them. Mm-hmm. Have you put up walls around yourself that may look like protection because you don't want to allow to be hurt or feel the pain again? Mm-hmm. You see, as we go into this more conscious way of living and conscious dating, I actually like to call them conscious moments. So you date again, you're set. But as we go into these conscious moments, we've got to be more vulnerable within each of these connections. You know, we've got to be more authentic. And like we said, we come from the heart space as opposed from that ego mind through the language of love. You see, we're still all just trying to work out what love is. Is love based on a array of emotions, which are just chemicals? Or is love based on something that is so much more divine and true from a soul space? You see, we've got to ask ourselves some big questions at the moment, my brothers and sisters. And until we've asked these big questions, we will keep attracting some of those hurts and pains within our life and putting up some of those walls around us that may not allow us to be open to attract that connection within our life. So this shit gets deep. It gets deep.
Yep.
It gets deep.
Yep.
You know, another question to ask, and when Josh and I were bantering about in the production meeting, is we both said, wow, am I available?
Yeah.
We both asked ourselves that question. If it quote unquote is not happening and there's somebody not in our lives right now, both of us said, I said to Josh, I said, you know, when this happens, I always said, how available am I? How available am I to what I say I want?
Ah, boom.
And that's the walls I was talking about of protection that we
Right.
put up unconsciously, brother.
And I said that to Josh, and he goes, yeah, I do that myself. You know, that's one of the things I do. I said, okay, how available am I to what I say I want? And that just pertains to life in and of itself. But in this case, how available am I in my life right now to what I say I want? And if a romantic, quote unquote, romantic relationship is what I'm looking for, I don't really like using that word, but in this case I will. How available am I to that? Am I available? So I said at the beginning, we're unattached but available. But am I? And I ask myself that question often, which brings me to move back within and to check myself out.
So let me ask you this question, and Josh, this is open to you as well. When you say how available am I, tell me more. What are we talking about? Available as far as financially in dating? Are we talking about available physically? Are we talking about emotionally? Are we talking about from a feeling safe as a man to share and show your feminine divine within? What are we talking about here, guys?
Well,
all of the above.
I'll share, Jay, in that you said something beautiful. We weren't even in one of our production meetings. I think just you and I were talking.
Yeah.
You and I were talking one time, and we were talking about all of my past and the debt that I had, and I was living small to pay everybody back. And you said I was unacceptable. And I've thought about that since, and we haven't spoken about it. And I absolutely, during that time, when I was dating people, would keep women at arm's length because I did feel unacceptable. I didn't have the nice place. I didn't have the money. I was gravely in debt and living small. Even though I was doing all of this work on myself, I for sure was keeping them away because it was embarrassing for me to bring them back, anybody back to my place, my small, humble apartment, as a guy in his early 40s. I was living like people do it in their mid-20s. I had nicer apartments in my 20s. So you brought up a very big thing, Jay, that in my mind, the story that I had bought into at that time was I was unacceptable.
So that brings up another really beautiful point, Josh, which is how many men and women show up when they're seeking a partner with smoke and mirrors. I know a number of them, probably more
Yep.
than I want to admit, that really aren't honest and truthful with who they really are. It's smoke and mirrors. It's the armor. Because if you really knew how I felt about myself, I wouldn't be attractive
Yep.
to you. So what do? We overcompensate, right? And that's why so many relationships, I think part of what contributes to relationships imploding within less than a year, by the 6 month mark, 6 to 8 months, a lot of people are figuring out how to exit stage left because eventually the truth comes out.
There you go.
Yep. Yep.
So
Can't hide.
the alternative, there you go. The alternative is I think really what we in Real Men Real Talk work on every day, especially when we come into the show, into the podcast, is showing up as our authentic self to show men that it's possible that we can be at peace with the fullness of who we are, both the masculine and the feminine energy within, and learning how to embrace both, because the B word, both, is where the balance is. And when you have awareness of your balance, guess what happens? You begin to fall in love with yourself.
Yep.
And when we can fall in love with ourselves, and for the first time, perhaps in a man's life, love yourself for feeling safe to be who you are, your true authentic self, it opens up the gateway. It's the path. Now, I could tell you guys that for me personally, I had no idea. I had shut down, I had turned off the spigot to my feminine energy within early on. And it wasn't until I hit my rock bottom and began to rebirth myself. I was at peace with my feminine within. And I dropped the guard out of the gate. And thankfully, it was with a woman who was ready to receive me, my full self.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know it was possible. But it was such a huge life-changing experience, because when I realized that this is who I am, this is me, and I didn't want to live in false self anymore. I finally had permission to be seen. And isn't that what we all want? To be seen, to be heard, to be understood as men and women, and to be loved. I think it's Karina that right now that just said surrender. No, it's Mary Kelly. Surrender.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when we first got together, boy, oh boy, I was crying almost every day, 2 or 3 times a day. Of course, I was going through a massive recovery program of grieving loss, mourning deaths. The most important one was me and my marriage. And so it can be a beautiful thing, but we have to have the courage. And if someone is not comfortable with that part of who we are, then we get to exit stage left.
Yeah.
Because it just means that we're not energetically aligned and they're not the right person. What do you make of this, Ev?
We could end the show right there, my brother. Thank you, brothers and sisters. We're done. Yeah, brother. I mean, you hit a beautiful word there with self-acceptance. You hit a beautiful word there with true alignment. And it is really all that journey coming back home to loving thyself.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, once we've done all of that particular work that we've been talking about here tonight, like I keep saying, you really have to draw up what is your value within what you want to see within that date, conscious moment, whatever you want to call it, conscious connection. What does that look like, brothers and sisters?
Mm.
Because not only when we have self-acceptance within ourselves, we give permission to those other brothers and sisters that we may be trying to attract in our lives to accept themselves. And that is the key to true alignment and connection.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. So here's my question. It's really probably more of a challenge I want to put out there for you, Jeff, and Josh, and you as well, Ev. Are you willing to take a dare? A dare in 2022?
Always hit me.
Okay. So here's a dare. I'm gonna. This is your little test. We're gonna put you in a lab, and you're gonna be your own guinea pig, if I may. And the test is that, and you guys may already be doing this. I don't know. And if you are beautiful, then you just can kind of expand the challenge. But change, well, part of it is change your relationship with how you show up when you connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
And even I could tell. So the challenge is change how you show up. Be willing to let down whatever guard, whatever old narrative, whatever story that you have maybe been living in, thinking how you need to show up as Jeff Fasano, as Josh Richer, even as Evis Love, Heath.
I want to show up as Evis.
It's possible.
Sorry.
It's possible. You could definitely we have infinite possibilities when we are willing to drop our own self-judgment, our own.
Yep. That's it.
There you go.
Yep.
Right. And when you don't care anymore, like I stopped caring for the first time in my life, I realized that freedom for me was being who I am.
Yep.
And if you don't like me because of that,
yep,
it doesn't matter to me. Then it just I can trust and accept that we are not energetically aligned, and release you from my universe. Not with anger, not with rage, not with mean-spirited words, but just with love and kindness in my heart for me. So there's the challenge. I'm going to challenge you for 2022. Each time you put on that shirt, each time you put on the shorts or the trousers or the pants, or however you're going out, set the intention that when you go out, just be who you are. Be the man that I fell in love with. I told you guys in the meeting, if I was poly or if I was bi,
we'd be all taken, wouldn't we, brother?
I would want to be with all three of you guys. Because I love you. You guys, I see you. Yeah. I know who you are. And I love you guys for who you are. And if there's a woman out there that doesn't see that of which I see, then they're not the right person to move on. Star says, ha, ha, ha. Thank you, Star.
Problem was, Jay, up until 6 months ago, I didn't like who I saw in the mirror.
Tell me more, Josh.
I couldn't love that guy in the mirror that I saw staring back at me up until 6 months ago, when I really did deep shame and forgiveness work and shadow work and started to, and you know what? I'll be totally honest. I am just beginning to learn how to fully, truly fall in love with myself now. Even after all the years of work in the awakening, It's now, once the shadow was finally out of the way, the shame, those parts of myself that I felt were unacceptable or unlovable, or I don't know. For a lot of years, I truly believed there was something inside of me that was just downright unlovable.
Mhm.
And so I locked that door and I threw away the key and I tried to pretend that room didn't exist.
Mhm.
But every time I looked in the mirror, I saw it.
Mhm.
And so yeah, it wasn't until recently. So doing these dates with myself, Ev, and doing these things, it's new. And that's cool too. But yeah, what I'm trying to show up now, Jay, is just fiercely authentic. Like you said, Ev, too, fiercely me. And you know what? There's no pretending.
Mhm.
There's no faking anymore. I'm also getting to the point where I'm really fucking tired of all that.
Good on you, brother.
So yeah, man.
Thank you, Josh.
Mhm.
Yeah,
This is why we do this show.
there it is.
Real men, real talk.
Mhm.
I got chills right now.
Whew.
You know what that means, right, Ev?
Oh yeah, brother.
Josh, I want to invite you to take a nice deep breath in this moment with us. How does it feel to hear those words vibrate through your throat chakra and through your body?
It's really fun telling on yourself.
Mm.
It's another thing we say on the show too. It's liberating. I'm not only saying words that I probably haven't said out loud to myself, but we're professing them to the world and each other in this safe place, in this
There you
space
go.
of no judgment, in this space of no shame, in this space of only love. And
So now the key, Josh, is to take this outside of Real Men Real Talk Live
yeah,
and just bring it home.
Mhm.
I want to acknowledge Nick Marshall coming in from Illinois. He says, I feel you on that, Josh. I've felt the same and recently began to truly dig deep and truly love myself, accept myself. True growth. Beautiful, Nick.
Magic.
congrats, brother.
Mhm.
Jeff, you've been an observer most of tonight as we coming up 8 minutes to the hour. I want to give you just a moment here just to share some closing thoughts on tonight's topic.
Well, I hear Josh. I mean, I feel him. I've said on this show many times of my deep judgment of self, which is lessening and lessening and lessening. I think what we've come back full circle from the are we okay with not being in a committed relationship? We've come back all the way to where we always start and have done 88 shows on is self-love.
Mm-hmm.
Self-love, self-acceptance, the journey of moving in from our heart space to self-love. How much do I love myself? How much do I value myself? What is my value? You know, do I honor myself? Do I even know who I am?
Mm-hmm.
If I was to ask myself in the mirror, who am I? And then write that down, that's a wonderful thing to do, folks. Who am I? And then if we go into any judgment and shame, can we accept that? Can we fully accept where we are? We're not ever going to be quote unquote perfect with whatever that is, whatever that means. But it's always about, am I content with where I am within myself right now? Can I even see myself when I put that mask up or that wall up or that veil up when I meet somebody? Can I say, okay, that's where I'm at, that's what I'm doing? Even when I go into the judgment of myself, I'll stop and just say, I'm judging myself right now. So it's all coming back once again to self-love and simply being who we are, but we need to know who we are.
There you go. To piggyback that, Jeff, I want to acknowledge Kim Sibbett coming in from British Columbia, I believe, Canada. Welcome to Real Men, Real Talk Live. We're so honored and gracious to have you join us this evening. She says, I think if we learn to nurture ourselves, it becomes easier to nurture others. We are all made up of each other's mistakes. Let that drop down in for a moment. Ev, I'm going to give you a moment here to put a pretty bow in the show tonight and share some closing thoughts about are we okay with maybe not finding our soulmate in our lifetime?
Yeah, thanks, brother. And, you know, to wrap it up with that pretty bow, like you said, my brother, I think so many of us, and you wouldn't be really human on this planet, haven't been through some sort of negative experience while in a relationship or a connection. And I would really start to become the observer of your story. Really look back at some of those experiences, really look back on that scene, on those moments, and ask yourself those feelings and emotions within those particular experiences, because they are the ones that really trap us in time. They may be the ones that really put up those false walls of protection that are holding us back from attracting that truly divine partner or connection within our lives. I would also say, practically, I would start meditating over what attraction or what connection it is you want to see. Have a little bit of courage, like Jay the Rothman just said, my brothers and sisters. Put yourself out there. Maybe go into something that may be even a bit more expansive that you may not have gone on a moment with. Keep yourself open and always know, my brothers and sisters, that you are never alone. I said this all through last year, 2021, when I was asking if you were going to be the one. You are never alone when you are all one. Come back home to self. When you come back home to self and you're complete, you will complement the attraction that is here for you.
Wow. Drop the mic, Ev. Love that. I want to take a moment to really, truly honor all three of you guys tonight. This is one of those topics that it can be uncomfortable in a moment, you know, especially if we're going to be honest and truthful with ourselves. As I have just a couple of moments here, anyone have a question for me that you'd like to ask, or a specific part of tonight's topic that you'd like me to explore for a moment or two?
Brothers?
I want to hear your free flow, Jay.
Jay the Rothman breakdown. Let's go, brother. Bring it home.
I just want to, again, take a moment to just honor all three of you and our viewers that have shared some very, very vulnerable moments with us tonight. This is the first step. You know, we're only as sick as our secrets. You may have heard that term before. And that really, for me, was my mantra early on, when I knew that if I was going to reverse disease and be healthy, I had to start with healing the wounds in my heart. And the only way for me to do that was first to have an understanding of what I was feeling in the moment, and then being able to reveal it so that I can heal it. And through that process of feeling safe, creating a safe bubble around myself, I'm very selective on who I let into that process. I began to find my way home. I love my home today on most days because I am human. But I'm at peace today. Because for the first time in my life, I was ready to show up and grow up. And with that, I love you guys. Each one of you are beautiful men. Keep being you. Peace and blessings. See you
Sam.
next week on Real Men, Real Talk Live.